So it's very much similar to like my previous episode. So what boils down is that like basically the operation Z, like the rule book is like saying this. Okay, I want you to give me max values, and I want you to give me the values have to actually be contagious. So for whatever term that they actually use was that they use this term called subarray. So what this means is that the values have to actually be sort of like contagious. That means like this. So I can't like break it down to be like this. So that's the meaning. So yeah, we can go along. So my operation Z, I come to here. So the first thing is that I got this value. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna store inside storage of say the max sum storage. So what this means is that it's like operation E is gonna like say that it's gonna store the current max at that point of time, because like what this just means is that say I have like a time, I travel through like the time, like at this current moment maybe my max is like maybe say 2, but along the way maybe somehow I can find a value that's like 7. So like maybe I got a negative value over here, -5, but along the way I might get this 7 and I will use this 7 value. But there are times whereby this fork over here may be like a larger value, so doesn't matter to my run. Okay, I'm just gonna take a risk and see if there's like a bigger. If there isn't, I just gonna store the max, right? So in other words, this is like the prolonged period of time of what's the max gonna look like. So what's gonna actually happen is I have my first value over here. I mean, fine. I'm just gonna store it as like I'm gonna operation E. Once I get the first value, I'm gonna store the first value. I'm gonna pull this boy over here, right? And then the next thing is that we want contagious, and how do I gonna do an answer? I need to have an answer for that. I gotta pull out my sliding window boy and the character sliding window boy. And this current and I also gonna bring out my the 2-pointer over, because that's what like the sliding window require me to have. So I'm gonna pull out these boys out to actually do some form of magic for me, and it's gonna be able to actually say that okay, my window is within this window, and this window I can actually do some form of like calculation. So like one of like the cool properties about this is that I can actually do calculation inside the window, inside the window. So that's really nice. So what I'm gonna end up maybe having once I do this item over here, it's a -2 and a 1, and so that means that will obviously be bigger, so there'll be -1. I mean sure, so like, and then now I go on to the next window, it's like a -3. I'm like I don't really want to add that off as such. So like why I have the yikes feeling is because that there's the question that I got to ask is that my previous accumulated value, is it falling under the category of like minus or plus? So if it's like minus, I think that's bad, right? So if it's a plus, I mean it's good. So for this case, we got a minus, it's not good, so we can actually choose the route of like doing like a reset button. That means we don't actually count like our previous value. But I mean, if it's positive, obviously I want to take you in. So I'm gonna use this guy, you know. But obviously this guy is not good. I mean, this operation Z, where negative, I'm not gonna take you. So I gotta say goodbye. To this vote, and but I mean, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So like -3 and -1, I gotta like actually do some form of like comparison. Okay, so like there's actually like a simple comparison that is actually happening over here. So it's like operation F. It's like I gotta compare like my currents with the incoming, and among this current and incoming, I'm gonna choose like the max among these two. So obviously this guy kicked this guy's ass, so we're just gonna move forward with this. So my current window is like this guy over here, and now this guy's perspective is saying that yo, my previous is like a negative. Obviously I don't want to include it in. I'm gonna do a hard reset, so I'm just gonna include myself as being like the 4 guy, right? So now we actually find a new value to be the 4. So we rock in with like the next guy over here, because this guy's perspective is saying that okay, my previous is like a positive, I'm gonna take you in, right? So I'm gonna take you in, but obviously it's gonna be 3 this time round. So this guy is gonna be saying, yo, come on in, man. It become 5, and this guy, come on in, man, and become a 6 now. And now we have another new max, a 6. So now cool, we come to here. It's like this guy's perspective is like, yo, it's a positive, I'm gonna take you in. So become a 1, and for this guy's perspective, it's a 1. Oh, I'll take you in. It's a 5, but overall the 6 is like the highest. So yeah, sure. So if you can see is that, like, at the end of the day, whatever this operation is trying to actually do is that I want to have of as high value as possible, because I mean the rulebook is asking me this, I want the highest value, so I got to do what's good. So at the end of the day, what's good is as high as possible, and that's good. And if you were to see, like, when we have actually ask questions, is that we have like we always narrow it down to maybe say operation E, which is that we narrow it down to having like two options. And sometimes we do prefer a positive, and sometimes we don't prefer a negative. And in most cases, it's always like whether it's good or bad. That's the question in fundamentally whatever decision we are gonna make is this. Is it good or bad, right? So the moment the robot is telling me, yo, I actually need the max value over here. So of all the characters that you can actually pull out is that you can think of as maybe say you need some form of like storage system of as such. So such cases you probably maybe need some form of like storage system, that storage box that stores your current value of as such. And this box is usually, it actually just contains like one value as such. And for this case, when you actually run it through, is that yeah, it does its work, but sometimes it may actually consider us to actually do some form of like comparison amongst like, I don't know, 6 values of as such. So there's like concurrently six values that's actually inside, and we want to do a comparison. And that's when we actually need to actually introduce maybe say like maybe a max hit, right? We want to get the max value comparing among the 6 values. Constantly I'm gonna make you juggle 6 items at the same time, and I want to give me the max value at each current moment, right? At each current moment, right? And if you were to see, this guy is like, that's comparison, but it's like comparing like say 2 values at say the current moment, right? And this dude is just like a regular storage box that we usually see. It's just there, stores the value, fine, right? Cool. So and the moment they roll up with us with this like, okay, contagious villainy, Subarray, right? We can actually think of like maybe say like contagious. I mean the character that we can roll out with is very much to do with sliding window, it's like contagious of as such. It and this guy obviously falls under the category of like say an array, right? And that you can kind of like manipulate it of as such. And obviously, what you can't think of is definitely not say like a stack, right? It does have all those like features and whatnot have you, but it's I'm not using the utility of like popping like the last value. And another thing you can actually argue is like maybe say QF as such. It has like the same argument as like maybe say a stack. It's not about like popping the values of as such. It's about manipulating like the window, how big I want to be of as such. Therefore, sliding window, arrays, it falls under that category. So if I were to roll up with like certain characters, it's my sliding window boy and the arrays boys. And for most parts is that what's so good about this sliding window is also this, that it can actually calculate inside the window. So because like certainly or not, like rulebook will actually always like fit in like certain like funny formulas that is actually fed into our guys. So it's nice that our sliding window is able to actually expand, and within the expansion we are actually do some form of calculation based on what the rulebook wants us to do. And maybe that's why we do like the sliding window, because what it actually do really does like fundamentally is that it actually able to actually do calculation inside. So that's the main feature that we're very much looking for. We're not looking to pop values, add values. We're very much of like we want to calculate, right? Whatever we're doing over here is very much this, like the reason why we actually, okay, say we have like a trough, incredibly big, like why do we choose to actually continue that route, right? So the thing it comes down to this, like there's a case whereby for this rulebook specific, is stating that there's like you are given the ability to use back your previous high. So with that in mind, you're saying that okay, I can actually use back my previous high, so doesn't matter if I go on the journey and try to seek out for more, right? So in fact, it's like saying that okay, there's no harm to actually seek for more in the journey. Be like in the journey we might get like negative value, we might get a value that's slightly below our, but we still can still use back. And what's best is that sometimes you also get a value that's like even incredibly bigger than yours, and that's the objective. Overall, what we want to do is get as high as possible for the values. So that's like our main objective as well. So with that, everything comes to an end.